Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Really excited to be speaking with you. I'm Deborah Kobus. I'm a senior fellow at the Urban Institute. I focus on workforce development, apprenticeship, and labor market policy. And throughout my career, I've worked on projects to advance the green economy and fight climate change. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to talk to all of you today. And I'm really excited to hear from all of our partners and panelists throughout the next hour. Before we really jump into the content, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. First of all, this event is being recorded. If you are interested in the recording, it will be available online after the event. Similarly, if you'd like more information about our speakers, or a copy of the slides, they will also be available on the Urban event page as well, and you can see them in the chat. All participants will be muted throughout the event, so if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to type them in the Q&A box at any time. We will do our best to keep track of the chat and use whatever time we have available at the end to answer as many questions as possible. Please feel free to engage with us on social media with the hashtag #LiveAtUrban. And finally, at the end of the event, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a minute or two just to complete the survey. That helps us make sure that the events that we put together, like this one, are useful to you, are relevant and timely. And so with that, that is all of the housekeeping, and let's go ahead and jump in. Today, we'll be talking about Clean IT, which is a project that we have to scale up tech workers to fight climate change, specifically in the clean and renewable energy sector. This project is funded by the US Department of Labor, their Employment and Training Administration's Building Pathways to Infrastructure Jobs grant program. And I'd also like to note that I co-lead this project with Bhavani Arabandi, who isn't speaking today, but has been a great partner and leader on this work. And so why is this the focus of today's webinar as well as our project? The clean and renewable energy economy is a growing economy. So really just looking even in the past year, we can see that clean energy installations have grown by over 25%. If you look at this in terms of jobs, the clean energy sector is growing at twice the rate of the economy overall. This has been spurred in part by the Inflation Reduction Act, which included tax credit subsidies that have helped grow the market. But whatever happens to the Inflation Reduction Act, we see that analysts are still anticipating this to be a growing market. While clean energy is relevant across the country, you do see that there are certain parts of the country that have had the most energy in this space. So California and Texas are not only big, they're clean and renewable energy rich, and so they have the most clean energy jobs in the country. And then there are other places that we'll also discuss today that are high up on that list in terms of the total amount of clean energy jobs. And you see places like North Carolina and Texas, where the clean energy job market is growing even more quickly than across the rest of the country. But clean and renewable energy, while you might think of jobs like solar technicians or wind turbine technicians who are really doing the physical work of setting up the infrastructure and maintaining the infrastructure of clean energy itself, really this is a wide, diverse sector that has a lot of different occupational needs. And so here, I won't go through all of the details of this slide, but this is just a sampling of the different ways that IT is actually a critical component of the clean energy sector. So very briefly, just touching on the first example listed here. If you think about wind and solar, these are not types of energy that are being generated in a steady and predictable way. And so you really need to have data analytics to understand the energy generation side of this market, as well as being able to balance that with the varying demand needs to maintain grid stability. Looking at the last example here, our energy supply and energy distribution is a critical part of our national infrastructure. And so cybersecurity is critical to maintaining our national security. So despite the fact that you can really see IT showing up in all of these different ways that the clean economy works, but there aren't really clear IT pathways in clean energy. And so part of what we want to do on this project is really help individuals and employers and the market more broadly understand what IT pathways can look like, how to access those opportunities, and how to advance your career through these growing opportunities. We've focused on a pretty wide range of IT occupations that are relevant here. And one thing you might notice if you are familiar with IT and less familiar with clean energy is that these are pretty common, well-known IT occupations, right? These are occupations that are already in demand throughout the rest of the economy. And so if we want to be able to support the clean energy economy, we have to be able to grow the supply of these kinds of workers. The good news is these are also generally pretty good jobs. The median salary in the US for these roles range from almost $28 per hour for desk support technicians to over $61 per hour for software associates. And so to the extent that we can actually use these occupations as a way of connecting people to the clean energy sector, we're really connecting people to an opportunity for economic mobility. And that pretty much sort of summarizes the purpose of our project and the purpose of what you'll hear from all of our speakers today, which is that we are seeking to connect populations who have been underrepresented in IT to these new opportunities that are emerging in the clean and renewable energy space. Specifically, what does that look like? We have a population focus of people of color, women, rural residents, and individuals who have at most a high school diploma. So these are actually populations that you see are not only underrepresented in IT, they're also underrepresented when you look at workforces within the clean and renewable energy space, like the solar workforce. In addition, as I mentioned, we have a geographic focus. We're looking at geographies that have particular demand and growth in the clean energy space. So we're currently working in Dallas, Detroit, and the Los Angeles regions, as well as the state of North Carolina. And we are working to add Houston. We hope to have that as an official site soon as our final region. What we are doing is we are providing technical training to 600 individuals who really learn the IT skills and get IT credentials. And then that's bundled with a bunch of other supports that are important for their success. So that includes wraparound supports, supportive services that help them gain access to things like childcare or transportation, as well as job placement services so they can be connected to good employers, and worker rights training. So one thing that I'll note on that is if you think about how careers work, it's really largely up to the individual to navigate the labor market. We as a set of partners can help people find a quality job, but throughout their career, they're going to need to continue to identify those jobs and advocate for their rights in the workplace. And so we have integrated worker rights training and connections to local labor organizations in order to support that need. And then we've also leaned into the kind of pre-employment training that we know really equips people with those in-demand skills and connect them to really strong economic opportunity. There's a wide variety of pre-employment training out there. And so we're really excited to be partnered with Per Scholas, who has evidence that this strategy is really an effective one. I'm not going to go into the details of each of the partners because we're lucky to have all of the partners represented in our webinar today, but I would just like to note very briefly that we're a set of 4 national partners, but really a lot of these partnerships come to life when you look at the local level. So we not only have the expertise of Per Scholas as a training provider, the industry relationships and expertise of the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and the worker rights expertise and local organizing capacity of the Communication Workers of America. But we also have local partnerships with workforce boards, with employers, with apprenticeship agencies. And so through this project, we're really connecting an ecosystem of partners that can support an individual's success in the IT field within the renewable energy sector. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton on to Michael Terrell, who is the Senior Managing Director of Per Scholas in North Carolina, and he'll introduce the broader Per Scholas team, and then you'll hear from each of other partners as well. I look forward to listening along with all of you to our wonderful partners. And then we'll reconnect at the end. Again, if you have questions that come up as you're listening throughout, please do feel free to add questions to the chat. And for any of you who are interested in connecting after the webinar, please also feel free to reach out to me or through the chat. And we look forward to using this webinar as a way to launch partnerships, not only that are already working together for this project, but with all of you who may be interested in pursuing some of the same goals. So thank you again. And Michael, I pass it to you.
Thank you, Deborah. Hello, everyone. My camera does not appear to be working. My name is Mike Terrell. Oh, there we go. My name is Mike Terrell. I'm the Senior Managing Director for Per Scholas, North Carolina. Since launching our campus in 2020, I've had the privilege of leading efforts to expand access to high-quality technical training across the state. Per Scholas has been a national leader in providing no-cost technical training to individuals who are ready to transform their careers and lives. At our core, we specialize in preparing individuals for in-demand tech roles through rigorous hands-on technical training. In more than 20 cities across the United States, we train a range of specialties to prepare learners for roles in cybersecurity and software engineering to IT support, and most relevant today, in clean energy IT roles. Our campuses are located in the cities that have a need for trained technical talent, such as Dallas, Detroit, and Los Angeles. Our programs are designed to meet the evolving needs of employers while ensuring our learners have the tools they need to succeed. Beyond technical training, we prioritize outcomes. For example, we see graduates not just landing jobs, but thriving in roles with career advancement opportunities. What makes Per Scholas unique is that we don't stop at training. We also provide wraparound services, including career coaching, interview preparation, and even support with essentials like transportation and childcare to help our learners overcome any barriers to success. I'd like to invite my colleague Joshua Boyce to speak a little bit more on some of Per Scholas' initiatives.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Joshua Boyce, Managing Director for Per Scholas Dallas. Similar to Mike, as Managing Directors of our respective campuses, we lead the strategic vision for each of our campuses, focus on building partnerships with corporations, community organizations, and foundations to deliver on our mission of advancing economic mobility through tech training. One of the things I'm most passionate about is creating opportunities for individuals who face barriers to entering the tech workforce. At Per Scholas, we design programs that not only equip learners with the technical skills they need, but also support their professional development through wraparound services like career coaching and interview preparation. Our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is central to what we do. At Per Scholas, over 85% of our learners are people of color, and nearly 40% are women, groups that remain underrepresented in tech. Through partnerships with over 850 employers nationwide, we're helping companies build more diverse and equitable teams while empowering learners to achieve rewarding careers.
And one of our most impactful initiatives is our National Cybersecurity Apprenticeship Program. We support the Earn and Learn model, and our DOL registered apprentices are paid for the entire year beginning on day one of training. These apprenticeships are a game changer for both learners and employers. And for our learners, they provide a chance to gain hands-on experience and earn while they learn. For employers, apprenticeships serve as a pipeline to recruit skilled talent, ensuring their workforce is equipped to handle the demands of a rapidly evolving tech landscape. And here at Per Scholas, North Carolina, we've seen firsthand how these apprenticeships have really transformed lives and opened doors to some high growth careers that were once out of reach for some of these folks. Our other campuses have seen success with the apprenticeship model. For instance, our Per Scholas Los Angeles campus. Technologists from our Per Scholas Los Angeles campus are participating in an apprenticeship with the City of Los Angeles' Internal Services Department.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, are not just values. They're strategic advantages for organizations. Companies that embrace diversity drive innovation, improve performance, and build stronger teams. At Per Scholas, we work with employers to tap into underrepresented talent pools and rethink what's possible when hiring. For instance, several of our graduates face challenges transitioning into a tech workforce due to limited opportunities in the field. Through Per Scholas, they gain the technical skills and confidence needed to land a specialized role in IT. As a result, we have trained over 25,000 learners, and 80% of graduates have thriving careers and contribute to the success of their organization. But don't take my word for it. We have invited one of our amazing graduates to share with you all today. I'm thrilled to introduce Kathy Wabanga. Kathy spent her early years overseas growing up in Germany. At 14 years old, she moved to the US with her family. Kathy completed the Per Scholas Dallas IT support program this past October. After graduating, a recruiter on LinkedIn reached out to her about a role requiring both IT skills and a fluency in German. Kathy interviewed and landed that role. Today, she's working at Google as a consultant and content analyst. Kathy, welcome. Can you share a bit about your journey? What brought you to Per Scholas, and what life has been like since you completed the training?
Yes, thank you, Joshua. Hi, everyone. So I first learned about Per Scholas through a manager I had at a previous job. His nephew had completed one of Per Scholas's program, and he had noticed that I was always trying to teach myself how to code using an app on my phone. At first, I was a little skeptical, but within a few months, I decided to go ahead and apply so I could take my skills to the next level. Since completing the training, my life has truly transformed. I was blessed to find an opportunity rightly after graduation, and I've been in my new role as a content analyst at Google for about a month now. Without Per Scholas, I would have never been where I am today. The professional development sessions during my trainings were incredibly impactful. I learned how to confidently present myself, master interview skills, and effectively sell my skills to others. These lessons not only prepared me for job interviews, but it also gave me confidence in all other areas of my life. On the other hand, the technical training gave me access to the certifications I needed to advance my career. And between the technical training, the professional development, and my newly improved LinkedIn, I connected to recruiters, and with support on creating a polished resume and professional experience, I was able to land the role. And since then, I've just had a completely different life. My Per Scholas was so unique, and I could tell that they genuinely cared because the instructors really dedicated their time and one-on-one attention and investment in each learner's journey. And that made the program stand out to me from any other educational experience I've ever had. So I'm so grateful for taking a chance on myself, and enrolling in Per Scholas, and my life has been blessed since. Thank you all for letting me join and letting you speak to you. So I will go ahead and pass this back to Mike.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for joining us today. Kathy is a perfect example of what we strive for here at Per Scholas. Her success really demonstrates the transformative power of opportunity and how training paired with a commitment to diversity and inclusion can change lives. To close, I encourage you all to consider how we can collectively support initiatives like Clean IT and to continue to open doors for individuals like Kathy. Together, we can unlock potential and change the face of tech. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Senior Director of Workforce and Industry Engagement for IREC, Mr. Richard Lawrence.
Thank you, and looking forward to working with you and everyone else here on this project. My name is Richard Lawrence. I am, let me just get to the next slide here. Senior Director of Workforce and Industry Engagement at IREC, the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. We are a partner on this Clean IT project. So IREC is a national nonprofit organization. We work to build a foundation for the rapid adoption of clean energy and energy efficiency to benefit people, the economy, and our planet. We primarily do this through three divisions. One of them is focused on workforce development. That's where this project fits. We do a lot of work as well with local communities, helping them take actions to streamline renewable energy development in their communities. We also engage a lot in the regulatory space, commenting on rate cases and interconnection proceedings and things like that, kind of technical side of the industry. We are well known across the clean energy industry as a workforce thought leader. For many years, our organization has focused on advancing the workforce development efforts across the clean energy industry. We've got many resources on our website that are used by people across the industry, as well as educational providers, career counselors, and other job centers around understanding the types of jobs that are in the industry and those career pathways, for job seekers looking at where might they go with this. We've got a number of career maps, interactive resources that help track out a variety of different career pathways within different sectors of the industry. We're always been focused on quality training within the industry, and we do serve as an accreditation body for clean energy training providers. We've got a network of training organizations that we work closely with to teach on clean energy topics. One of the projects we have, an example, is our Solar Ready Veterans Network. We're connecting veterans to jobs within the solar industry. This is an example project also highlights our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, as we talked about there. In addition to the quality standards, we're really focused on increasing diversity across this industry. With that, we work as well across the Weatherization Assistance Program. We do a lot of work in that energy efficiency space, as well as in renewable energy. One of the reports that we're known for is our annual solar job census. This tracks the jobs in the solar industry, again, across all the different sectors there, from manufacturing, as well as the installation and construction side of things. We do a lot of convening of experts and other stakeholders across an industry. We like to make sure we do all of our projects through partnerships like the one you're hearing about today, that we can provide that expert advice and guidance and help convene industry partners and make those connections, because it really does require everybody involved in this. So we've got some training courses, and we've been doing a lot of work on advancing apprenticeship models. So that's an area we'll be tying into with this project. So encourage everybody to check out our website, irecusa.org, and look at the resources we have. So with this project on clean IT, we will serve as that industry expert, connecting to all of the different sectors of the industry and understanding the needs. We've got a big network of employers. We work closely with a number of trade associations as well across the industry. And so we'll be doing that outreach, trying to identify, employers for these occupations that we're looking at here. We'll be raising awareness about the project and about clean IT career options, through industry trade press, and engaging again those employers to make them aware of the project. So doing outreach and engaging those employers to look for those training opportunities to continue after this. And we'll be creating some resources around, exploring these career options. So our current solar career map, for instance, does have a couple of IT occupations on there already, but we'll be expanding that out with some other resources to explore, some of these emerging technology areas there, growing demand for artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, software development, all the other occupations that we're looking on here. So we'll create some resources around that, build them into, integrate them into the other tools that we have on our website, and make sure that, IT career pathways are clearly identified in the resources that we have. We will be tying into the projects we have on registered apprenticeships. So the training provided through this project is a great start, get somebody into the door. But there's always room for advancement and, continued learning once they get on the job. and apprenticeship training really helps with that. So we'll be referring some of the employers to develop continued training options that way. And of course, we'll be supporting through collecting feedback and providing recommendations. That includes from employers on the curriculum that's being offered as well to make sure it's aligned, with their needs. With these career navigation resources, we're starting off with a landscape analysis, so interviewing a lot of employers across the various industry sectors and really understanding what the options are for employment in the IT occupations that we're looking at. We'll map those out into those career pathways. We talked about a show, the opportunities for advancement within here, sharing success stories. We hear a lot of youth today. Obviously, they're interested in IT careers, but they're also interested in other topics like climate change and having an impact. I think these clean IT pathways provide that balance of that high-tech career as well as one that's going to be making a difference. And we'll have some resources developed as well for the employers to do that outreach and engagement with them. Important thing here as well, it will connect with some of these other projects, leverage the funding that we have from Department of Energy, from the Department of Labor, and other foundations to support our efforts, tying into the networks of other programs that we have with that Solar Ready Vets network. Got a lot of employers there from the solar industry specifically. Our Apprenticeships in Clean Energy network through the Department of Labor, we're helping lots of employers understand apprenticeship systems and then working with them to identify the occupations. So we'll have opportunities there to expand that into more of a clean IT focus. And broadly, we manage the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. It's a large partnership where we convene all stakeholders across the education, the industry, the workforce systems, and work towards this. So we'll be certainly sharing resources and connecting employers through that network. We're building out our website, the Green Workforce Connect. Most of the resources that we'll have created through this project are going to be hosted here on our site, as well as I'm sure on Urban Institute's site as well. But again, integrating into this site that we're building out as our hub for clean energy workforce activities. So those success stories, those career resources, they'll all be integrated here in with other resources to explore broadly opportunities for employment and career advancement within the clean energy industry. And that is my contact information there. We look forward to working with you on this project. And I think I might turn it over to here. Yeah, so I think, is this Nell at?
That's me. Thanks,
All right.
Richard. Okay, well, thank you. This has been great to hear from everybody so far. My name is Nell Geiser. I'm the Director of Research for the Communications Workers of America. So CWA is a labor union founded in 1947 by telephone workers. It was actually preceded by the National Federation of Telephone Workers Unions, and they realized by dealing with the national bell system, we need a national union. So in 1947, they founded the Communications Workers of America, made up of both outside technicians who built and maintained the networks and inside operators. And you might know something about those two populations. Operators were pretty much all women and outside technicians were pretty much all men. And so CWA has dealt with the evolution of the tech sector, equity in the tech sector for a very long time. And we see today across our sectors the importance of supporting labor management partnerships around high quality training. So CWA represents workers across 6 sectors, primarily telecommunications, information technology, media, public service, education and healthcare, manufacturing, and airlines. And when you look at the history of telecom, our historic base, of course, we have seen the overall technology get a lot more efficient, requiring less labor for the same output. So there is a shrinking of that workforce. but it's also very tied into the transformation and convergence with the information technology broader sector. And a lot of people call it a mega sector of, telecom, media, tech. Some people put the tech, media, telecom, tech first. I like to put telecom first because, that came first. But, this is a very interconnected sector. And we have a lot of experience as a labor union supporting tech workers to organize unions, to work for better conditions in their industry. Most recently, the campaign to organize digital employees launched in 2020. It offers free training to tech workers on how to organize with their coworkers and win improvements in their workplaces. We now, as of 2024, it's actually 5,000 tech and video game workers have formed unions with CWA through the code campaign, and that includes large tech companies like Microsoft and Alphabet. We don't have formal union recognition with Alphabet, but we do have more than 1,000 union members who have built a voluntary organization to improve working conditions across the Alphabet universe. Also, video game companies ranging from Activision Blizzard, AAA Studios, Sega of America, smaller video game and gaming companies like Paizo and TenderClaws, progressive tech firms like ActBlue, Mobilize, Catalyst, and many others. So it's been an exciting few years as tech workers really stepped up and said, we need a seat at the table, we need a voice. And I think that partly reflects the maturation of the sector. So as the sector has grown, matured from its early years, and large tech firms have gone into unusual, but what you might say is cyclical round of layoffs following a lot of staffing up during the early years of the pandemic. We are seeing that the employers in the sector, and I'm sure this applies to clean energy as well, but looking at tech occupations and tech employers, we have seen employers take a variety of approaches, including a really constructive approach to their workers seeking to have a voice and to unionize and to protest, conditions or positions of their companies. So we've seen a number of companies adopt union neutrality and voluntary recognition. That includes Microsoft. People may have heard Microsoft adopted a set of labor principles that respects workers' rights to engage in collective bargaining, and specifically engaged with CWA on an agreement for how workers can unionize through a process free from intimidation, harassment, or persuasion by their employer. Really best practice out there, so it's good to look at Microsoft right now. Also, in the semiconductor field, a small company in California called Akash Systems has signed model labor agreements with both the building and construction trades for the fabrication facility construction and with CWA around the long-term operational workforce to ensure labor neutrality so that workers can feel comfortable to speak up and organize in their workplace, work together to have a voice on the job, and ensure that they can work constructively with management to have a good workplace in a growing sector that's been increasingly being reshored into the US. And then progressive tech companies like Every Action voluntarily recognized their workers' labor union when workers had a majority of their coworkers signed up on authorization cards. So there's more examples than that, but those are some examples that demonstrate that many employers in this sector want to partner with their workers and understand that unionization can be mutually beneficial. CWA was invited to serve as the worker voice partner on Clean IT That includes, in our role, providing a one-day workers' rights training to participants consisting of 4 modules covering labor history, workers' legal rights, union basics, and case studies of workers' rights in action. The trainers, one of whom you'll hear from in just a moment, came out of the tech and gaming sectors themselves. And we are also here as part of the Clean IT team to inform program design in order to help maximize the job quality outcomes for program participants. Workers in unions, have higher wages, have longer tenure, so employers don't have to do as much retraining and future hiring. So apprenticeships were really developed by the labor movement, and so we are experts in the field of joint labor management partnership to ensure that trainings like what Per Scholas is delivering translate into the on-the-job learning model that has workers as partners, peers, mentors, who are really the experts in their hands-on job and able to best explain how to learn it as well. So we'll be connecting folks to local labor partners in the markets where Clean IT is operating, and we look forward to this experience over the trajectory of the program. For now, we've just begun the trainings. It's going great so far, and we are really excited to learn from the participants and refine how to make this as useful a resource as possible as we walk through with them how they can ensure that they're informed and confident on the job to exercise their rights. This is a quick overview of the training. There's 4 modules in the one-day curriculum, starting by looking at labor history and understanding that information technology is a fast-moving field, but does go back all the way to many older technologies that we don't necessarily think of when we think of tech these days. So really getting people to think about how humans have been evolving technology for hundreds of years and how that has influenced working conditions and the structure of labor markets and how workers relate to their employers. So historical case studies of workers standing up for their rights across the years are really an interesting way to delve into the beginning of a conversation, which then gets into how do workers come together to exercise their rights through collective action, which is the most effective proven way to effectively counterbalance and act as a countervailing force to ensure that the work conditions and the compensation are fairly fared with the owners and the workers, or the organization and the workers. So we look at how unions conceptualize themselves, what are their mission statements, how do they assert power as workers to ensure fair treatment, and a little bit about how does the US compare to the rest of the world. Then we look at your legal rights. Very important to understand the differences between being a W-2 employee and a 1099 contractor in this occupation. And we have had some great discussions about that issue so far with the participants. Also understanding the legal rights around your right to organize and act together collectively, whether you're in a union or not. The definition of unfair labor practices. These are all things that many workers do not learn in a matter of course when they enter the labor market. And we've heard from participants so far that it's really helpful and enlightening to walk through these basic legal rights. Then we look at some additional case studies from just the past few years of IT workers negotiating collective bargaining agreements, what that looks like with the case study of Sega of America. Also examples of issue-based campaigns in workplaces that do not yet have a union or may not be in a position to have a union. And we have some takeaways and lots of discussion and interactive small group discussion throughout this curriculum. So with that overview, I'll now hand it to Grace to talk about her experience as a trainer coming out of the tech sector.
Thanks so much, Nell. Hi, everyone. I'm Grace. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here as a worker rights trainer with CWA. I wanted to share sort of 3 things with you today. I'll start with a little bit about my background, including what organizing is like in a remote setting. Then I'll share a few reasons why it's valuable to educate tech workers on their rights and on organizing. And I'll leave you with a sense of what people will get out of this training. So first, to start, I got involved back in 2021 when my own workplace, Every Action, was organizing through code. And I've just sort of never looked back. Since 2021, I've helped bargain multiple first contracts. I've served as a steward, I've been a member organizer, and now I'm here to help workers understand their rights. Organizing in a remote setting, because so many tech jobs are remote, is really interesting because on the one hand, you find that you may have to go out of your way to build relationships and do things that might otherwise happen more organically or even accidentally in an in-person setting. But on the other hand, remote work may help people to feel like they have more privacy. It may give you more flexible timing for building those relationships with your coworkers, and it may help people feel like it's easier to speak freely with their coworkers. So with that being said, I just wanted to share a little bit about why I've found it's so valuable to educate other workers in tech about their rights. As we've sort of talked about already today, the tech industry broadly has a pretty good reputation when it comes to things like pay and remote flexibility. And at the same time, tech isn't immune to some really common workplace issues. Just to give some examples, chronic long hours, understaffing, high turnover. Tech by now is pretty famous for mergers and acquisitions, which can lead to, varying levels of those issues. And knowing your rights as a worker and knowing how to organize can help workers navigate all of these changes and even be retained longer. I'll use myself as an example. I actually made the decision to stay put at my job instead of leaving once we were organized because I didn't have to leave to find a better job. I just was able to stay and improve the one I already had. Another issue is pay and pay equity. Elephant in the room, not everyone earns a software engineer salary. I didn't. And I was actually able to quit my second job thanks to our union contract and the guaranteed pay increases that we were able to negotiate. Other folks that I worked with benefited from greater pay equity thanks to our union contract. There's so much to talk about when it comes to pay and pay equity. Layoffs. No one should have to worry about getting abruptly laid off with no soft landing, like guaranteed severance or continuing benefits. And when it comes to tech layoffs, this isn't a hypothetical issue. Tech experienced, tens of thousands of layoffs broadly over just the last 2 years alone. So this is definitely top of mind for workers like me. And, issues like, fair treatment, harassment on the job. I could really go on for hours, but what I really want to stress and what I want to leave you with is that yes, tech jobs can be great jobs. And also the issues that I've listed here exist across a huge range of sectors, including tech. And organizing can be a really effective antidote to these issues. And I know it was for me and for the thousands of other people who've successfully organized their tech workplaces. So lastly, third point that I want to share with you today is just in this training, people can really expect to get some solid basic information before entering the tech workforce. In my experience organizing at my tech job, I found people generally could have used a lot more information about unions and even just their legal rights as a worker. I really wish we'd all had this training, to be honest. It'll give us a chance to, talk with folks. They can correct any misconceptions and misinformation that they might have heard. And it'll give workers some really clear and accurate information that they can take with them to basically any workplace. So those were my 3 pieces of info to share. Thank you for your time. And I will go ahead and pass the baton to the next speaker.
Over to you, Deborah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our speakers for being such excellent partners and also for all of your insights today. We have some time left to open it up for questions. So I'd like to invite you all back to turn on your cameras for the final Q&A. And while you're doing that, I just want to recognize that this webinar was created by Urban and with the contributions of all of our partners. So it doesn't necessarily reflect the official positions of the U.S. Department of Labor, and that this has been supported through the Clean IT project, primarily funded by the U.S. Department of Labor, but also with matching non-federal resources. So all of the legal language is there. But now I'd like to just open it up for a Q&A. So everyone who is on, feel free to add your questions into the chat. Thank you all for participating. And as folks are entering questions in the chat, I'll just kick it off with an opening question. I think, one of the things that's so interesting about this project for me, and I think hits such an important need right now, is that it does sit at this intersection of two evolving sectors, right? The IT sector and the clean and renewable energy sector. So I think, primarily for Per Scholas, as you're really thinking about why to get involved in this, why to focus in, a little bit more narrowly than IT just in general, like what makes the clean and renewable energy sector an exciting space for you to be involved in. And I think actually CWA, if you folks want to like add to that as well, it's that same sort of dynamic of coming over from the IT space and thinking about this adjacent sector.
Yeah, Deborah, I can jump in. From my perspective, I think that as we've seen the clean energy and transportation sectors grow in the past several years, what that really looks like for us is just wider opportunities for our graduates, right, and for the folks that we serve in our different markets. And one of the things that Per Scholas has always tried to do is to make sure that when our graduates, finish their programs, that they're ready to start their career on day one. And a part of that, really takes intentional effort on the part of Per Scholas to make sure that we are, seeking out the employers and the fields that are going to be the best possible landing spot for those folks, not just to get a job again, but to get a career, right? To be in a place where they can grow, personally and financially and have a long and successful career. So, we recognize that clean energy is a continually growing field, and it will continue to grow into the future. And so we want to position ourselves and thereby our graduates to make sure that those folks have the best opportunities to land jobs in those fields.
Yeah, I piggyback off what Mike just said. I think for me, it's really looking at the diversity within people. Like we mentioned before, Per Scholas has a very diverse pipeline of talent that we care to share with the world and share with those in local communities and where we offer our programs. But also it's an opportunity to support rural communities, Deborah, as you mentioned in your earlier slides. But more importantly, and I think Mike just touched on this, is the upper mobility and career pathways that it can offer. There's scalable opportunities that clean energy has. And I believe as our graduates tap into this industry and tap into the intricacies of clean energy, right, they'll see that it opens up more doors and more opportunities for themselves, for their communities, and for others that they, want to bring on into the clean energy space as well. So a great question, because I think it really hones in on the necessity of the work and the necessity of the tech talent that we see come through Per Scholas and the highly skilled talent that we can provide to the employers as a return on investment.
And I would add from the CWA perspective, reflecting back on what Deborah said at the beginning about the large number of IT roles that exist in the clean energy sector, there's just a lot of interplay between the tech sphere and the clean energy sphere as described there. And so there's going to be companies that specialize in that intersection. And there's also a big role for traditional tech companies. They're huge users of energy, right? And you see unique partnerships between big tech and energy producers. So there's a huge intersection between the tech sector and the clean energy sector. And there's a lot of ways that IT workers end up working within a tech sector that services many verticals, right? So they might end up in a at a clean energy company first and then go to a tech specialist vendor that works for clean energy companies. So just the variety of employment structures that we experience and see that there are tech workers across, our industries shows that it's important to look at some of these big intersections in order to ensure workers are prepared to navigate the jobs that are out there. And also we see that in a lot of somewhat unionized sectors like the energy sector, there are roles that are not unionized. So a lot of times you would see that IT workers in a company that might otherwise have some union presence will not be yet, in that bargaining unit, even though they totally could be or have their own union. So there's a lot of reasons to engage workers in these pockets.
Great, and we're starting to see these questions roll in. So we'll get to as many of these as we can. I'll just really quickly answer the final question that came up, and then I'm gonna direct questions to some of the panelists. But the question that just came in is this a regional specific workforce strategy? Is there a higher demand in rural states, and what opportunities exist in urban cities, Chicago, New York, and Philly in particular? So this particular project, the Clean IT project, is one that has a geographic focus. So we're looking at the Detroit, Dallas, LA, and Houston areas, as well as the state of North Carolina. And in North Carolina, that's where we're actually particularly looking more at those rural jobs, combined with in the cities as well. Whereas the other geographies are more grounded in the urban areas. But we are all national partners on this call, and we all have an interest in pursuing a lot of these goals, even outside of the Clean IT project. So for any of you who are on from different parts of the country and are interested in any sort of portions of this strategy, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to explore opportunities for partnership with you. We really do want to make sure that we're connecting IT and clean energy opportunities to the populations who are most excluded from them. And so however we can find ways to do that together, we'd be thrilled to do that. Okay, I'll see how many of these questions we can get to. The first one is pretty specific, and I think it's primarily geared towards Per Scholas. So do you get different certificates with this program? So if you could just briefly speak to the credentials that people earn through your training. Absolutely,
and I saw that Tiffany may have asked two separate questions as well, so I could probably cover both of those. Per Scholas in most of our courses offers some type of industry standard certification, whether that's in our IT support courses, the CompTIA A+, our cybersecurity courses are the CompTIA CYS A+. The only one that we don't offer an industry standard certification in is our software engineering course. And that's really just because there is no industry standard certification in software engineering. So, and then how do you go about going down this path? If you are in one of the geographies that's covered in this program, you can go to perscholas.org. You can find your site. And you can apply for one of the programs, and you can ask your admissions associate when you get connected to admissions, specifically about this. And our admissions associate should have the information about this program. And just to build on that, anybody who is on now, we have a website that's live for this project. It includes an interest form. So whether you're an individual who would like to participate in the training pathway, or you're a partner who would like to connect with us, you can also use that interest form, and we'll make sure to connect you to the appropriate geography. But yes, even within Per Scholas, if you want to let the people that you're working with in the program know that you're interested in clean IT, just talk to your local program, and they can connect you to the opportunity. Personally, I would love it, like, for folks that are interested, even if you're outside of one of the geographies, if you are a Per Scholas
participant and you're already enrolled in training programs and you're interested in some of these other aspects, whether it's the worker rights training or connecting to the clean energy field, even if there's not an immediate opportunity, it would be really helpful for us to know about that interest, because we do have we have 4 years of the program remaining. And so really understanding where that interest is can help us make sure that we create those opportunities through the remainder of the program. So I will kick off another question and then open it up. I think actually a few folks on this call may have thoughts on this, which is, what do you see as the primary obstacle for employers to host apprentices in the clean IT field? So I think that's a great question. And I'll start with my sort of positive take on this, which is I think that a lot of employers just really don't understand what it takes. I don't actually think that the hurdles are that big. If you are interested in developing a high quality work-based learning program, translating it into a registered apprenticeship program is not that much of an extra lift. We are here as people that can help just walk through that process, make sure that you're sort of capturing the design of your program in a way that's consistent with registered apprenticeship. But often it's that just uncertainty of where to start, what exactly it entails, and how to get connected to the supports like incentive funds or state funding that's out there to support you. And so I think it's just having that guidance. But I'll open it up to other folks who may have thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I agree. It is really about that employer commitment to making sure they're providing a career pathway, they're providing the training on the job. If they're already, have a fairly well-structured training program, if they're committed to professional development, registering the apprenticeship program then is typically not that big a deal. There is, there's certainly likely more classwork needed than they maybe are traditionally using. So adding, having to pay for a little bit more training ongoing. And there is the administrative burden of, there is some administrative hurdles of just managing the program. Certainly group sponsored programs like the one Per Scholas has available that they can help relieve a lot of that administrative burden of managing some of the aspects of the program too. So I think that's a good thing to help with this project.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And I'm seeing that even though we have some questions remaining, we're running up right on time. So I know there are still a couple of questions in there. The very last one that came in on, as we work at the intersection of IT and clean energy, how do we build meaningful connections with communities that have historically faced environmental challenges? I'll just say, I think that's a fantastic question. I think that the communities that have faced environmental challenges often overlap with those that have faced economic challenges and barriers. And so in part, just thinking about where we are working and also thinking about how we can support, even if the job is in one place, how are those companies working with the renewable energy companies that are helping improve environmental conditions in other communities as well, is really important. So I think it's a great question to end on, because I think it's one that we should consider as we move forward with that project. So I'll take it as a call to action as much as it is a question. So thank you all for your engagement in this project, in this webinar. Please take a minute or two. You've got 1 minute before probably your next meeting. If you could use that just to quickly fill out the event survey, that would be very helpful to us. Again, please feel free to reach out to Urban. We can connect you to any partners if you're interested. Feel free to let any of us know if you're interested in partnering either on this project or on related work. Thank you to the Department of Labor for the opportunity for us to work in this space. And thank you again to all of the wonderful panelists today who I'm so excited to work with over the next 4 years. Thank you. Have a good afternoon.